Wow, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to go right ahead and say it. This is going to be the biggest and best Printify webinar we have ever had. And why might you, why, and you may ask why? Well, not only are we going to have a major game-changing announcement, but we are also joined by someone you probably are already familiar with if you have ever explored the print-on-demand universe out there online. We are joined by Starla Moore of the Handmade Alpha Academy, and she's also a manager at Eranks. Starla, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I am awesome. We're going to have fun today.
Exactly. Are you excited?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm super excited that there's so many wolf emojis in the chat. I know a couple people are like, what does it mean? It's like hieroglyphics.
Well, thank you. Thank you, all of you wolf emoji lovers for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm excited. You should be excited, too, because we're going to cover Starla's going to present to you exactly all sorts of tips and strategies to boost your Etsy store's ranking by improving the visibility of your listings. And we're going to do a deep dive into that here in just a minute. But beforehand, let's get a little housekeeping out of the way. We will be doing a live Q&A session at the end. So as we go through the presentation today, be sure to pepper in your questions into the chat, and our moderator, Christophs, will collect those and we'll address those at the end of today's presentation. Okay, but let's go ahead and test out that chat feature as we do. Please type into the chat where you're joining us from, city, state, province, country, wherever it may be. I know we have a lot of people out there, so I'm always interested in seeing where you are joining us from. So go ahead, test out that chat feature, put in your location so we can see where you're joining us from. All right. Well, I promised you some announcements. So let me go ahead and get those out of the way so we can get right in with Starla. We have since today's presentation relies heavily on Etsy and a lot of Etsy strategies, and we're going to be talking up and down about Etsy. We here at Printify have recently partnered with Etsy to allow people who download purchase digital files from Etsy to immediately during the checkout procedure to put those digital files directly onto canvas prints and all other sorts of print materials, t-shirts, and all that. And this is available for customers in the US. This is a partnership between us and Etsy that allows you, boom, immediately once you buy a digital download, to have the option to put that on a canvas and or a t-shirt and other products, have it directly sent to your home. This is something we are very, very excited about here at Printify. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody out there at Etsy that made this possible. Thank you so much. This is something that you can take advantage of if you are in the United States, okay? And I mentioned previously about a game-changing announcement. So what if I were to offer you, as a Printify merchant, the opportunity to sell on North America's second biggest online marketplace? Would that be something you'd be interested in? Because right now, and this is an exclusive announcement for you webinar listeners, because the official announcement doesn't go out until Monday. So you're getting some exclusive content here. Printify and Walmart Marketplace have entered into a partnership where you can connect your Printify account to Walmart Marketplace and sell your products there. It allows you to access an entire new market of customers, and right here before the holiday season, the timing couldn't be better. Printify and Walmart Marketplace. This is big, people, because you can only get that exclusively with Printify. It's a game changer, okay? So watch your inboxes, because we will be sending out all kinds of information starting on Monday, and you can learn how to connect your Printify account and start selling on Walmart Marketplace, okay? Now, there will be a couple of extra hoops for you to jump through to connect your store, but the end result, the reward will be you'll have access to Walmart Marketplace's vast amount of customers. So wonderful, exclusively through Printify, okay? But this webinar isn't about Printify. And speaking of webinars, we are going to be changing with the season. If you've joined me for our previous webinars, you've heard me say that the the print-on-demand season is divided into two parts. There's everything that happens from July until the first week of November, and then there's the busy holiday season where you throw away the rule book and everything is different. We'll be following suit. Our webinars will change format. We'll be giving you live holiday season updates so you know what the lay of the land is out there in the print-on-demand universe. We'll be having special guests. We'll be giving you everything you need to know to effectively take advantage of that short sales window when demand is at its highest, okay? And we'll be giving away all sorts of prizes, big prizes, so be sure to join us for that, okay? Speaking of big prizes, you know how we like to give stuff away here on Printify webinars. So at the end of today's presentation, we will have a trivia question based on the information that Starla presents in her presentation. And you will have the opportunity for 3 random winners to win $50 of Printify sales credit, a exclusive Printify mug, and thanks to Starla and the team over at Eranks, you'll be given a free Eranks Pro membership. Okay, this is the biggest prize package that we've ever given away, and they're only going to get bigger as we move through the holiday season. Okay, wonderful. All right, now that we're through that, let's get into the meat and potatoes of Starla's presentation. Starla, please take it away.
Awesome. Well, introductions are boring, so I'm just going to keep it short and say my name's Starla Moore. I'm an Etsy coach. I'm a manager at erank.com. I run the Handmade Alpha Academy. I've got a pretty cool YouTube channel. If you want to check that out, I cover a lot of the topics that we're going to cover today more in depth because we've only got a little bit of time. Unfortunately, I can't cover everything that I want to cover today, but I am going to send you off to another video after this one concludes because everything that you learned today you're going to want to take action on, but you kind of need an instruction manual to do it. So I pre-recorded that instruction manual for you so you can watch that on your own time sometime this weekend. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But during today's training, we'll be exploring the criteria that Etsy uses in order to rank your listings in search. Then we'll be discussing best practices that will help you to appeal to Etsy's criteria. Because in order to understand Etsy SEO, we need to first understand what Etsy expects of us. We need to meet that criteria in order to rank in search and get our listings found. But first, if you're still an Etsy beginner, you may be wondering, what the heck even is Etsy SEO? So for all of our Etsy newbies out there, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And for the sellers who have been on Etsy for a while, you likely already know how important this little acronym is. So in the simplest terms, our SEO is a roadmap that helps Etsy direct shoppers to your storefront and individual product listings. So unlike a standalone website, Etsy's already full of eager shoppers who are interested in purchasing what you sell. I like to think of it like placing your store in the middle of a cornfield versus a busy shopping mall. The traffic is already there in the shopping mall. We just need to make sure that they're able to find you in the mix of all of the other sellers, right? To do this, we need to point them in the right direction. We need to research the terms or the keywords that your shoppers are typing into their Etsy search bar while they're shopping. And if you're new to Etsy, you've actually got it pretty lucky because a few years ago, it was tough terrain in that world of Etsy SEO. A few years ago, there were no specialized Etsy tools or advanced keyword data. Instead, we had to use tools that were catered to Google search and then sit around hoping that shoppers were searching for those exact same terms on Etsy. Now, the biggest issue was that these platforms didn't update their trends for years, which means you'd see high searches for things that had already died off in popularity. Sure, it may not have been as bad as mullets, but imagine that you suddenly noticed that Bernie Sanders mittens were trending on Etsy. Now, that feels like a million years ago, right? Trends rise and fall all the time, and as sellers, we need to be able to stay on top of them. Thankfully, we're out of these Etsy stone ages, and we're able to now use tools catered to Etsy search specifically. Tools like erank.com can help us to understand search volumes and the rise and fall of seasonal trends by giving us up-to-date data from real Etsy shoppers. That way, you can make sure that you're listing products a few months before these search trends begin. Even if you're new, you've probably already heard about keyword optimization of your Etsy tags and titles, because these are the age-old SEO strategies that most sellers have known about for years. However, what most Etsy gurus don't tell you is that keyword optimization is just one tiny part of a really, really big picture. Believe it or not, optimization of your tags and titles isn't the only factor that contributes to being found on Etsy by shoppers. There are a lot of factors that contribute to success in Etsy search, some of which we know about, and some of which Etsy keeps a secret to keep the playing field fair and even on the platform. But there are 7 factors that we do know about and that we can influence as sellers. And people ask me all the time, which factor is the most important? Which one should I focus on first? What should I focus on right now? Which is kind of like asking which table leg is the most important to hold up the dining room table. The answer is that all factors are equally important. You can't have a sturdy table with only 3 legs. So today, we're going to tango with the Etsy machine a little bit. We're going to take it out on a date. We're going to get to know what it likes and maybe see if we can get it to like us in return. The 7 factors that we'll be learning that contribute to Etsy search are relevancy, listing quality score, recency, customer and marketplace experience score, shipping price, language and translations, and shopper habits, which probably sounds like a lot of gibberish, right? Is anybody, I guess there's a lag to the chat. I was going to say, is anybody saying that's gibberish? Well, let's go ahead and break them down a little bit. If someone is searching for baby shower gifts on Etsy, the last thing that they want to find is men's underwear and antique cigar boxes. This is where relevancy comes in. Basically, your relevancy is a gauge of how closely your listing's tags, titles, attributes, descriptions, and product details match a search query that someone types into the Etsy search bar. The more relevant the term that you use or the terms that you use are, the more likely it is that your listing will be placed higher up in search, okay? Next is your listing quality score. This is a secret, undisclosed rating that Etsy gives to each listing based on how users interact with that listing once they click on it. So repeat sales and reviews of singular listings can help that listing to rise in search, because it tells Etsy that this is a hot term. And because Etsy wants their cut of the pie, they're more likely to show that listing to more shoppers. Next is recency. When you add a brand new listing on Etsy, it's impossible for Etsy to give it a quality score, right? You just listed the item, so no one's had any time to click on it, let alone to interact with it. Instead, Etsy gives new listings a brief boost in search, just long enough for them to collect information about how shoppers engage with that listing. And then after a period of between 60 to even 90 days spent observing shopper interactions, Etsy begins to formulate a listing quality score to determine your new listing's placement in search. Next, your customer and marketplace experience score is exactly why things like great reviews, completing your shop policies, and filling out your about section are so important. And I know some of you do not have your about sections filled out. I look at your shops. You need to go do that. These are all things that positively impact your customer and market experience score and thus your search ranking, because these areas demonstrate to Etsy that you're a trustworthy shop. 1-star reviews, cases filed against your shop, and copyright infringement claims hurt this score and your ranking, okay? Next, in March of 2018, Etsy surveyed shoppers, and those shoppers said that they were 50% less likely to make a purchase if they thought that the shipping price was too high. So in July of 2019, Etsy announced their decision to give products with free shipping an extra boost in search. But if you visit Etsy today and type in literally any type of product, you'll see that the first page is not just items that ship free. Now, between us, I think that Etsy got a lot of hate for this, and they eventually rolled this back for only shoppers who use the free shipping filter while shopping, or those shopping from their mobile app. So don't panic if you can't offer free shipping, okay? I know a lot of people really, really get scared about that when they can't offer it. Next is language and translations, which is a big one. Basically, whatever language you selected when you set up your Etsy account is the language that you should be using for your listings, tags, and titles. Although Etsy translates these for you into other languages if you sell internationally, even Etsy admits that their translator technology isn't very good. Think how Google Translate works, right? It's only right sometimes. So if you're fluent in other languages and you'd like to cater to those shoppers, any translations that you do manually will actually override Etsy's. The last factor is shopper habits. And this is the big one, the factor that changed everything several years ago, and a change that created mass pandemonium in the Etsy community. Does anybody remember this one? It's been a while. Along with the factors that we've covered so far, Etsy also tailors each search result specifically for each shopper. And Etsy isn't alone. You know how whenever you search for a brand on Google, right afterwards, you magically start seeing ads for that specific brand everywhere? That's no coincidence. It's called machine learning, and it's how advertisers target shoppers based on their search history and online activity. It's also why if I were to type Christmas gifts into Etsy and you were to type Christmas gifts into Etsy, what I see on Etsy will be completely different than what you see on Etsy. Basically, Etsy shows me the things that they think that I'm going to like, and they show you the things that they think that you're going to like, okay? Now that you know all 7 factors that you have control over, all you need to do to be successful in Etsy search is balance these 7 ranking factors. Easier said than done, right? That's not helpful at all. Everybody's like, oh, great. Now what? Don't worry, it's not as difficult as it sounds, I promise. We just need to appeal to Etsy's search algorithm by checking off each of the factors that they use in their ranking criteria, okay? I want you all to picture Etsy as a big machine. In order for the Etsy machine to work, we need all of the gears in place. If we remove one gear, the machine won't turn properly. Even though some gears are smaller, they still have a big impact on the machine as a whole. We need all of the gears in place. So let's start with the big gears, the ones that are the most impactful. Tags, titles, attributes, and descriptions. This is where we want to keyword optimize, which we'll discuss a bit more in a while. But this basically plays into your relevancy. More on that in a few minutes, though. Next is your good standing with Etsy, which contributes to your customer and marketplace experience score. Your overall sales and frequency of sales, which contribute to your listing quality and customer and marketplace experience score, and your reviews, which contribute to both your listing quality score and your customer and marketplace experience score. Now, let's look at the little gears. First is your tagline, which plays into relevancy. This is the area under your shop title where most people put their slogan. You can actually keyword optimize that. Time, which plays into recency. This is the small boost that we talked about earlier that Etsy gives to brand new listings. Your shop sections, which contribute to relevancy. These are the areas in your shop's left navigation that separate sections of your shop into categories. You can also keyword optimize those. Your alt text, which helps your relevancy a bit, but more importantly, it helps your shop to be more accessible to those with visual impairments by describing what is in each of your listing photos. And you can do this from the back end of your Etsy shop by clicking on any of your listings, clicking on your listing photos, and adding in that alt text to accurately describe what the photo is. I like to pretend that I'm trying to describe what is in the photo to like a blind family member. If I had to tell them what was in that photo, what would I say? And that is what I put in my alt text. Next is your location, which contributes to shopper habits. This basically means that people who live closer to your shop may see your listings higher in search. Search filters that are activated by shoppers. For example, shoppers can sort by listing price, sales and offers, estimated arrival time, color, style, etc. And overall shop completion. Etsy wants to see shops that have filled out about sections and policies, which contribute to your customer and marketplace experience score. Now, with all of these gears combined, the machine runs properly and helps to get traffic to your shop. However, even with all of these things in place, you may still struggle because, as we know, Etsy is a very saturated marketplace. For context, there are over 5 million sellers on Etsy as of their Q2 report. This number sounds pretty darn big, but have you ever seen 5 million of anything? It's almost impossible to visualize it. So let's lead with an example. This image may look a little bit fuzzy, but it's actually made up of tons of little dots. Can you guess how many little dots? I'm going to take a drink and they can type it in the chat. All right.
I'm going to count real quick to see how many I can come up with.
Okay. Comments or dots?
Dots.
All right. Well, I'm going to assume that there's a bit of a lag, so I will keep going because I bet some of you said 5 million. And if you said 5 million, unfortunately, you were wrong because pictured here are actually only 100,000 dots. This is 5 million dots. There are so many dots that these bars don't even look like dots. 1 dot for every seller. And this is what you're up against on Etsy. Needless to say, Etsy's very saturated. So even if you have the best machine out there, some machines will still be better. In fact, have you ever found a shop on Etsy that has super great search ranking and tons of sales, but they have the worst SEO ever? Like they have no keywords at all, and yet somehow they're in every single search. This is due to high listing quality and high customer and market experience. This seller has likely been on Etsy for a while and has built their listing to the top of Etsy, even with bad SEO. It could be due to the age of the listing or external marketing. Maybe they have a huge social media presence and have driven their own traffic, which can also drive up your listing quality. A lot of people say that you can't compete, and I know that it feels that way, but that's absolutely not true. You just need to know how to compete in the modern and busy world of online business. We have to adapt to the times. For example, if you took the very best car salesman from the 80s and time traveled him to the present day, he likely wouldn't be able to sell a car today. Time changes the method. Algorithms will only ever get smarter, and we need to adapt with the time in order to generate continued success, okay? Since I love tackling things in steps, I'm going to be sharing with you my ABC method to plan, adapt, and grow on Etsy this year, even in a saturated niche, okay? So first, we are going to build your listing quality scores so that we can get your listings ranking in search. Now, the number one thing that helps to build the quality score of a listing is repeated sales of that listing. When something sells over and over again, this gives Etsy a clear signal that the item is in demand, therefore causing Etsy to recommend it to more people by ranking it higher. It's also why one-of-a-kind sellers tend to struggle a bit more on Etsy than sellers who can create repeatable products to generate bestsellers, okay? The next method to grow your listing quality scores is through external marketing. When it comes to building listing quality, traffic is traffic and sales are sales. Etsy doesn't care that you sent the buyers directly to your shop through external marketing. If you make a sale, it builds your listing quality, no matter where that buyer came from, which means that social media is your best friend. And bonus tip, I recommend using Instagram Reels, TikTok, and Pinterest specifically for this, because these forms of content are shown to people who aren't already following you. As long as you're using good keywords and hashtags in your captions, you're casting a fishing line directly into a pool of your target market. Now, I didn't mention this with you previously, Martin, but I actually have a free 30-day Instagram challenge kit that can help guide them through the process of building up their follower counts on Instagram. And if they want that, they can get it at handmadealphaacademy.com. It comes with calendars and checklists and content planner and anything that you guys need. And it's free, so can't beat free. Now,
we love free.
Awesome. Now, after those purchases are made in your shop, Etsy's even more likely to recommend your items in search if the buyer also leaves a good review. Not only did they buy your item, but they liked that item enough to tell others about their experience. And these are exactly the types of items that Etsy wants to show to even more shoppers, because that's going to make Etsy more money, which I know what you guys are thinking. Yes, getting good reviews is really hard. Some people buy and then they never think to actually come back and review their purpose. But what if we reminded them? In a survey that we conducted over at Eranks, we found that a majority of Etsy shoppers want to receive communication from the seller directly throughout the transaction process. In those surveys, shoppers said that messages indicating that their order was received, shipped, And even after the order arrived, to confirm that it arrived safely were all very important to them. Not to mention, though Etsy sends automated messages to your buyers, they still recommend that you, as the seller, reach out personally to keep them updated throughout the transaction process. Now, if this scares you really, really bad, I actually have a template that you can copy and paste right into your Etsy snippets or your saved replies to save a ton of time, especially over the holidays. I've also included instructions on how to use them if that sounds like something that you really need. And you can grab those for free over at alphasugar.com. And I'm sure that there are alphas that are in the chat right now that can also say that if they use them, how amazing they are, because they work really well. This is the most valuable freebie that I offer, and it's helped thousands of Etsy sellers to rank higher in search. So if you're feeling nervous about them, test them on your next 10 orders. Just try them, okay? The results are going to prove themselves, okay? So next, step B, we're going to build your customer and marketplace experience score. If you're an Etsy procrastinator, which, you'll know right around holiday time if you're an Etsy procrastinator. Now is the time to do all of the stuff that you've been putting off. Adding alt text to your listing photos, working on your shop policies, filling out your about section. Etsy tells us that overall shop completion is a factor that contributes to your customer and marketplace experience score. So don't wait. Make a plan to fill these out before the holidays, okay? Next is a bit of a vibe check. And Martin, I know that this is one that you specifically wanted me to touch on because this is one that we see a lot in POD. And this is the part where everybody gets mad at Starla, but I wouldn't be the realest Etsy coach out there if I lied to you now. If you've got copyright items, it's time to ditch them. No amount of putting wording in your listings like inspired by will protect you from a legit copyright claim. Shops are shut down all the time, and copyright claims hurt your score. Yeah, a lot of shops do it, and every single day, hundreds of them get caught. No matter what you've been told, here are the facts. You can't use names of copyright characters, TV shows, video games, sports teams, or books in your listing titles, tags, or the items themselves. You cannot use fan-created terms like Potterheads for Harry Potter in order to list items that violate someone's copyright. And you cannot use words like fan art or inspired by or I do not own the rights to as a form of protection. You cannot make and sell these items legally without a license. Look, I know that this really sucks. And as someone who's seen thousands of shops get shut down, it's not worth your livelihood. These are big business moves. If you want to be successful, it's time to create a business that is focused on longevity. Because when you get in trouble with Etsy, you don't just lose your account. You get IP banned. You can't even shop there. They completely cut you off. So, Martin, is there anything that you had wanted to add in there?
Starla, I just want to say that truer words have never been spoken. I have dealt with, I would say, hundreds of merchants that come to me. Oh, Martin, my Etsy store has been shut down. Is there anything you can do to help me out? They got me on a copyright ban. And like you said, there's absolutely nothing you can do. It is one strike. It is once they shut you down, it is over. Okay. It may seem like a good idea at first. You get some orders coming in and things seem to be going pretty well, but it is not a long-term strategy for success. Okay. So if you're using copyright designs, please stop. Okay.
Yeah.
And besides, you're much better off coming up with your own designs and heading off on your own path. Absolutely.
And here's the thing, getting your Etsy shop shut down is the best case scenario, because I don't care how much money you don't have Disney lawyer money. So could your lawyers beat their lawyers? If the answer is no, then don't touch it. All right. Okay, so enough with the deep. Lastly, you need to make an action plan for the inevitable bad. At some point, as a seller, you're going to get a mad customer. Maybe their item didn't arrive. Maybe it arrived damaged. Maybe it didn't fit properly. Maybe the items tracking shows that it was delivered, but the customer says that they never got it. I want you to write down all worst case scenarios on a piece of paper. Then write down how you'll handle the situation if it occurs, because this will help you to create better shop policies and to respond to customers with an action plan already in place. And let me tell you, this is so nice during the holidays if you already know exactly how you're going to handle these situations if they pop up. Okay. So lastly is C. You're going to become an SEO scientist today. And to do this, you're going to use the 6 steps of the scientific method, which you probably learned about these in middle school, but here's a refresher because who can remember what the heck all those steps are, right? First, make an observation and ask a question. Take time to observe what your competitors are doing and ask a question such as, what tags are my competitors using that shoppers might be typing into Etsy search? Okay. Second, you're going to perform research. Begin investigating the tags that those competitors are using. If you have a paid eRank plan, you can actually do this with eRank's competitor listing report. But if you have a free plan, you can use the keyword tool. So start with a broad search like mug or shirt or tote bag. I guess I'm a little laggy over there. That's okay. And the keyword tool is going to help you to get a sense for the most popular tags used by fellow sellers, plus how often those words are searched for on Etsy. So super duper useful. That way you can make sure that you're using terms that people are actually searching for rather than just guessing them. Third, you're going to form your hypothesis. A simple hypothesis for an Etsy t-shirt shop might be, Christmas is coming up. I wonder if people will be searching for Christmas party shirts again this year. Look at the search trends and popularity over time to decide if the keyword that you've researched is still popular or if they'll soon be in season again. For seasonal items, you can use Eranks trend graphs to find out how far in advance that you should be starting to add those relevant keywords to your tags and titles. You want to make sure that you're getting it right before that nice big spike comes up. And thankfully, Erank has 15 months of historical data, so you can look at when the holiday spike started last year and list your items right before that, which for the holidays, it's now. If you haven't done it yet, it's now. Do it now.
Yes, please do it now, people.
Do it now. Yeah. All right. Next, fourth, you're going to make a prediction based on your hypothesis. Choose the keywords you feel will best drive traffic to your listings based on the data that you've collected. If our hypothesis is Christmas is fast approaching, will people be searching for snowman mugs this year? Then our prediction might be based on Erank search trend graphs. I think that snowman mug might be a good keyword to test in my own listing. Fifth, test your prediction. Right before you make the changes to your tags and titles, be sure to turn on tracking for the listing using Erank's changes tool so that you can monitor the results of your experiment over a few weeks. This tool will allow you to see how the views, favorites, and sales of your listings change. After you've collected some data through your tracking, start by testing your new keyword in just one listing so you can monitor your results. We hear it all the time. People will get so excited about Erank and they'll go change all of their listings at once, and then they won't understand why did Erank do this to me? All my listings are doing so bad. No, it's because you bet all of your poker chips at once, and that's never a good idea. Oh, and big golden rule of Etsy SEO, if you guys are taking notes, and if you're not taking notes, grab a Sharpie and write it real big on your arm. Never, ever, ever change the tags and titles of a listing that is already performing well. You risk taking out the keyword that was bringing traffic to that listing, and you could tank your bestseller, especially before the holidays. Only touch the listings that are brand new and you're just adding them to your shop, or the ones that you know aren't performing the way that you want them to, okay?
Okay. What about going back and checking out listings that have been that used to sell like maybe a year ago, and then going back and revamping those keywords?
Yeah. So for holiday listings, if that listing can be repurposed for a different holiday because it's a gift, I would definitely go in and maybe try to sub out some keywords, see if you can get it to perform for a different holiday. You know, maybe you've got Christmas gifts, but They could be repurposed for Valentine's Day gifts. That's a great time to go in and start sprucing. If it's specifically a holiday item like a Christmas mug, I would say not to tinker too much with the keywords, because you're going to see exactly what type of or time of year those trends are going to spike back up. And that might be just a listing that you either let sit in your shop or you deactivate it and then you relaunch it as a brand new listing over the holidays. Or if it's just a listing that has stopped performing and it's not related to a holiday, yeah, people change the way that they search for things, and what they were searching for previously might not be the way that they're searching for that item anymore. So definitely go in and look at those trend graphs and see if maybe the keywords that you're using aren't performing the way that they were once you added them to your tags and titles. Unfortunately, the thing with Etsy SEO is that it's not a set it and forget it thing. You do need to set it and forget it and not tinker with it every day. But if you've got listings that are over a year old that aren't performing anymore, you do need to go in and kind of clean house a little bit. So, all right, sixth, then you want to review, because it can take 60 to 90 days for Etsy to assign you a listing quality score based on how shoppers interact with your listing, like we talked about earlier. So did the new keywords help your listing? Awesome. You can try testing those in another listing. Did the keywords not perform the way that you'd hoped? Well, that's okay too. Even if the keyword didn't work out, the experiment was still a success, because learning what doesn't work can be just as useful as learning what does work. So if that keyword was a dud, return to step 2 and try again. Use your results to make a new hypothesis and new predictions. Now that you understand the mechanics of Etsy's search algorithm, your next step is to jump in and start dancing with the Etsy machine. Unfortunately, with the short amount of time that we have today, there's no way that I could possibly go around and add a full keyword optimization lesson in here. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I created this video lesson for you instead, which should definitely be your next stop after we conclude our Q&A today. Not to toot my own horn, but you absolutely will not find a more in-depth Etsy SEO tutorial than this. So definitely check it out, especially if you need lots of hand-holding and step-by-step instructions, okay? But overall, guys, Etsy success doesn't just come from good keywords. We have to dive deep into the machine and make sure that we're oiling all of the individual gears that make your listings perform. And now that you know exactly what steps to take, you'll be well on your way to Etsy success. So for those who like my teaching style, my name's Starla Moore, and my entire life is dedicated to providing help to Etsy sellers through science, psychology, and data. So for additional Etsy tips, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I've got videos that dive even more in depth into each of the topics that we've discussed today. And you can ask me questions live every single Friday during our weekly episode of the Friday Bean. Tomorrow, I think we're talking about how to prepare for the big holiday shopping rush. I've also got a pretty rad coaching program called the Handmade Alpha Academy, which will be opening for enrollment on December 10th. If you're interested in checking that out, you can find more about that at handmadealphaacademy.com. And that's all we got. Woohoo!
Wow. Thank you so much, Starla. That was absolutely amazing. I hope everybody was paying attention. And if you missed something, no worries. You can always go back and revisit this presentation on our YouTube channel. And you can also, if you haven't already, because my audience is the most prepared audience in all of print on demand, because they've watched my 2 previous webinars on getting ready for the holidays. But if you haven't, first of all, shame on you. And second of all, it's never too late to get back into the game. You can revisit them at our YouTube channel on Printify on YouTube. And please do that, as well as revisit this particular presentation. Oh my goodness. Wow. Thank you so much, Starla. All right. Well,
awesome.
We promised you a little bit of a Q&A at the end of this. So let me just go ahead and see what the audience has to say. It looks like we have quite a few questions. Thank you so much to everybody that submitted a question today. Let's go ahead and start with Susan. Susan asks, hi, Susan. Susan asked, in addition to selling on the Walmart marketplace, would a future enhancement allow selling through Wayfair, etc.? Well, who knows what the future will hold? I mean, 2023 is a whole new year, and we have all kinds of really cool things coming up that are planned for you. But you just never know. The only way to find out is sit tight and wait, and keep watching your inbox. But there'll be plenty of more opportunities. But I mean, the Walmart integration is is the game changer. I mean, you won't find that anywhere else in print on demand. So take advantage of that. And then as new opportunities come along, we'll make sure you can connect to those. Okay. All right. Thank you, Susan. All right, Amy. Thank you, Amy, for submitting your question. She says, I have an Etsy jewelry store, but I think my business logo would be perfect for POD, shirts, mugs, etc. Is that too weird to have as a separate section in her jewelry shop?
No, big brands do things like that all the time. It's a walking business card, right? It might be weird if you sold jewelry and then you made shirts that said like Linda's Dog Bakery on them, but to me that sounds pretty cohesive. And it's a great way for your diehard fans to rep your brand for you. I say go for it. That sounds like a great idea.
Sure. And it never hurts to have a couple extra products out there around the holidays for when everybody's looking for that gift for somebody else too. So keep that in mind too, Amy. But thank you for your question.
That's awesome.
All right. Miley asks, I opened a mug shop and had $800 in sales in your first 3 days. First of all, congratulations.
Wow.
And then it all fell. Any help? What do you say, Starla?
Well, it depends on why it fell. I want to know how you launched so successfully. That is fantastic. Those are amazing results. I would be very, very proud. I would be curious to see when you launched that shop, though, because one thing that I've heard a lot is people who say that, oh, I launched, in November and I did so well and then my sales tanked. I'm like, well, those are natural Etsy search patterns. Or I started my shop in 2019 or 2020 and I did so well. And then it all fell. Well, those were Etsy's biggest years in their history because of COVID and online shopping. So normally during the summer and even in the weeks and months like leading up to the holiday shopping rush, I think that people are a little bit more strict on their wallets, so they don't spend a lot of money frivolously because they're saving for the holidays. So there's not a solid answer that I can give you because there's so many things it could be. I would definitely go check those keywords though that you've got in your listings and make sure that they're performing. Try to drive some traffic of your own through social media. There are 2 ways to drive traffic on the platform with SEO. That's, your in-house traffic, but then you can double that up by also making sure that you're driving people directly there through social media. You could start an email list. There's so many ways to do it. So I usually recommend changing SEO last, just because that's usually not the issue. I would check the seasonality of the terms that you're using and try that social media marketing as well. And then if you still feel like it's not doing too well, maybe do some sprucing of your SEO.
Sure. And there's nothing that says, Miley, that you can't get back up to where you were and beyond. Go down the rabbit hole with Starla's videos, go down the rabbit hole with the videos that we have on our YouTube channel. Simple Google searches will expose you to a plethora of information out there, but make sure you use education as the cornerstone to your growth, and you should be back up to where you were and beyond. Okay. Thank you, Miley. All right. Lauren asks, I'd like to offer free shipping on a product. However, when I add the shipping into the price, it makes the product look completely overpriced. Should I just have them pay for shipping?
I recommend A/B split testing that. Don't aim to be the cheapest on Etsy, whether you're selling print on demand or not. You're not on the race to the bottom. Etsy isn't about competing in price. You want to compete in quality, in branding, in customer service. But if you compete in pricing, you're going to find yourself in this constant tug of war with everybody else who is just making nickels and dimes. And that shouldn't be the objective when trying to build a brand of longevity. I recommend pricing in the top 10% of your industry. That means look at who your biggest competitors are and make sure that your pricing is aligning in that top 10%. We actually over at Erank, we've got a great profit calculator that will tie into all of Etsy's fees, because I just saw in the Printify Facebook group, somebody posted about being confused about Etsy fees and how much money they took out. That'll factor all that in so you can make sure that you are always, always, always pricing for profit. So I would recommend checking that out. And don't be afraid to price higher than the people at the bottom. You should aim for that top 10%.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren, for your question. Let's move on to Joy. Joy submitted this question. If I am selling art prints of watercolor animals and nature, what type of photos are best to use in the listings? Well, the highest quality you can possibly get. That's the advice I have for you. Yes, but make sure not only that the print quality of your products are of high class, but make sure that those mock-up photos as well are of high quality, because that's what's going to draw people in to actually start going through the checkout process and bring them in and inspire them to purchase from you. Okay. Excellent. All right. J348011. Okay. Thank you, J348011 for the question. What do you do if someone copies your tags in SEO and bumps your listing off the first page to the point that it's not seen on 500 pages? Do you redo your SEO and change tags? Good question.
Well, that's not going to happen. I could go to the #1 shop on Etsy, whatever I think Planner Kate is still Etsy's #1 seller. I could go to her shop. I could go to her top performing listing. I could steal all of her photos. I could steal her title, her description, her tags, her attributes, her alt text. I could steal all of that, make a complete copycat of her listing and list it, and it would not rank beside her. Everything that we talked about today about building your listing quality score, that is what ranks you in search. So SEO is a very small piece of that pie. It's actually the listing quality score that is going to, determine where you're going to be found in search. And even because of that layer of personalization that we talked about earlier, what you see on Etsy when you search is not your rank. That's everybody's search results are going to be different on Etsy. So you can't look that up by yourself. The only way that you can truly check your search ranking to kind of get an average of what, the average shopper is going to see is by using Eranks Rank Checker, which comes directly from Etsy's API, but that's going to strip that layer of personalization off. And it's going to show you your rank and your page position for the keywords that you're trying to aim for. So don't base what you're seeing on what you found on the Etsy search page. Use the rank checker. And it doesn't matter, like I said, if your competitors are taking your exact keywords, that's not going to matter, because it is the listing quality score that is going to get you ranked in search. Keywords are just a very small piece of that.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Trent has an E-rank question.
Awesome.
Thanks, Trent. In E-rank, why do some terms have 2,000 plus searches one month and 0 for all the next months? I find it hard to believe that many terms go from thousands to absolute 0.
Yeah, and they don't. It usually, especially when it comes to really niche items, a lot of times it's a lack of data. What we do at eRank is we don't guess. We're not going to tell you that we think that something is got a lot of searches and we just don't have data for it. Every once in a while, things will kind of fall through the cracks. Our data is a massive panel. We have so much keyword data, but every once in a while you'll hit one that is kind of obscure where it'll show results of 0. And it's not that no one's searching for it. It's that we don't know, which, sometimes those are great keywords to experiment with and keep an eye on. It just means that nobody in the massive data panel was searching for that term. So what you can do is, if it's a term that you feel we should have data for, something simple like stickers, drop us a message at support@erank.com so we can look into it, so we can make sure that there's nothing funky going on our end. There's also a little blue feedback button in the bottom right-hand corner of your eRank dashboard when you sign in, so you can message us there as well. But if you're seeing a result of 0, like I said, sometimes it's just obscure terms that we don't have data for.
Okay. Good. Lena asked, for alt text, should you use hashtags?
No. Like I said, these are for those who are visually impaired. So a lot of times, and when I say visually impaired, I don't just mean people who are blind. This can be those who can't see the full color spectrum. There are a lot of different visual impairments, but a lot of them will have computers that will read to them what is in the photos so that they can shop. Now, if you're selling t-shirts and you're the only shop in somebody's search that actually has that alt text filled out, and they have no idea what the other listings are, but because their computer is able to see that alt text in your listing and they can hear what is in your photo and understand what you're selling, you might be the shop that they purchase from. So like I said, you want to describe those photos accurately, not just your product, but if we'll say that I'm selling this water bottle, maybe it's, turquoise and pink water bottle sitting upright, turquoise and pink water bottle laying on its side. So try to accurately describe the different angles, off to an angle, leaning towards the left, leaning towards the right, in front of a plant, on a wooden table. make sure that you're filling out anything that you would to describe what is in that image. And usually that comes with keyword optimization anyway, because you're describing what the item is.
Okay. We have a ton of questions. I know we're going long. Do you have a couple more minutes, Starla?
Oh, I am perfectly fine. I have nothing but time today.
Nothing but time. Good. All
Nothing
right.
but time.
Well, let's make use the best use of the time we have left. Okay.
Awesome.
Carrie asks, so she sells nerdy shirts. First of all, good on you.
Okay.
These have D20s on them. Okay. As a tag. I'll use hashtag Dungeons and Dragons. Is that the kind of thing? Is that kind of thing fine as long as I'm not using their imagery?
No. Dungeons and Dragons is owned by Wizards of the Coast. If you go to Wizards of the Coast's website, they have their full licensing agreement. You cannot use any terms that are associated with D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, any of the races that they exclusively own. So you can use dragons. You cannot use drow elves or dark elves. Can you tell that we're nerds here as well? So you can use D20 because a D20 is the type of die. You're not going to you have to call an item what it is. I don't think that they have a claim on the term D20, but any actual Dungeons and Dragons related terms, I would get rid of those and sub them out for tabletop gaming, tabletop role play, and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. Jaya, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jaya asks, I opened my store over a week ago and researched all the keywords and tags in advance on Eranks. Is it normal that I have 0 visits so far because of the short time, or does she have to worry?
Yeah, it's pretty normal. Here's the thing. It takes a while. I always say that if you can get some traffic to your shop in the first 3 months, you're probably doing all right. If I were you, though, I would start hitting social media hard because, just listing those products on Etsy, that's just one part of it. If you can start driving a little bit of traffic by advertising some of those products on social media, maybe starting yourself an Instagram account for your business, then even if somebody goes to your shop from your Instagram account and makes that purchase, that's still going to help build that listing quality score up. And Etsy is still more likely to recommend that item in search because they know that, okay, somebody already liked this enough to buy it. So maybe we should show it to more people.
Okay. But bottom line, keep at it. Okay.
Yes.
Paul asks, isn't it difficult right now to make sales? The economy is nearing a recession. Also, how can you compete with companies that can lower their costs by running operations from their home? Okay. Well, first of all, the holiday season is right around the corner, and problems with the economy, recession or not, people are still going to need stuff, and the demand for products, it will never be at their highest. So even in times like these, there are plenty of opportunities out there for print-on-demand sellers. And the second half of your question about competing with companies that can lower their costs, well, you have to offer something that they can't get down the street at the local Walmart or the Target or the CVS down on the corner. You have to give something that is exclusive, that is unique, that people want to associate themselves with. That's how you compete with those big people, okay? Because they're not going to be able to get so niche specific as you can, because I mean they have to have a broad appeal, whereas you can really hone in and target your targeted niche specific customers. Okay. So that's how you're going to compete with those big fellas. Okay.
Yeah. We're not seeing a decrease in searches at Eranks for people who are shopping. You can go there right now and see everybody shopping. They're not just doing it for fun. They're looking because they want to buy. Exactly.
Okay. Lizzie asks, I set a store-wide sale and only a few items show as on sale. I have verified all items are included. Any ideas why this happened?
Oh, on Etsy's end? That sounds like an Etsy bug. I would reach out to Etsy support for that. That sounds like an Etsy question. You can always, I know that this sounds basic, but you can always try turning it off and back on again. But if it's not showing, then that might just be a bug with your shop. So I'd reach out to Etsy.
Okay. Lena asks, does advertising on Etsy help your score with Etsy?
No. You mean using Etsy ads? No. Now, if you make sales of those listings that, based on your Etsy ads, that is going to help your listing quality because you made a sale and any reviews that came from that can help. But you're paying for ad space, and the ads algorithm is almost a different algorithm than the one that Etsy uses for things that are organically placed in search. So you're not gaining some additional, advantage of ads other than the fact that you're paying for ads and you're paying for a little extra exposure.
Okay, wonderful. We have one more question. Okay,
Awesome.
and it comes from Heather. Is the eRank visibility score the same as an Etsy listing quality score?
No. So your listing quality score, we don't get to know that, which really sucks, but you can sense it. It's like a ghost. Has anybody ever made a sale on Etsy and then like 2 minutes later, you notice another sale suddenly pops up, or a sale for that same item pops up within the same day, and it's really spooky? That is your listing quality score. It's Etsy saying, hey, this listing sold. We should show this to more people, so maybe more people will buy it. Your visibility score on eRank is, and I always get this wrong, it is from the point that you created your listing. It is how your listing compares, how the views of that listing compare to thousands of other Etsy sellers. So that score is based on the time frame from when that listing was first created, which is exactly why your visibility score on eRank, it takes a long time to change. It takes a long time to influence, because it's based on who's actually checking out your listings over that, the entire time that you've had that listing on Etsy. So obviously making that score increase is great. But your listing quality score is something completely different. That's just basically your good track record with Etsy, showing them that this listing sells. People love this listing. They're reviewing it over and over. That way Etsy knows, hey, we should show this listing to as many people as possible, because this listing is going to make the seller money and it's going to make us money. Because what does Etsy love to do? They love to make money too, because they're a business.
Right. And speaking of eRank, I heard eRank had a new feature specifically for POD merchants. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, we're so excited. So for those of you who use eRank, you may have noticed it in our eRank trends report over in our trends tab. We now have in the monthly trend data a print on demand section. So we have data for shirts, embroidery, hoodies, phone cases, tote bags, stickers, and I feel like there's one more, but I can't remember offhand. But we are showing you guys the top 100 searches on Etsy for each of those categories. It's really, really cool. I highly recommend checking it out, because that's going to tell you what type of themes you should make. If you see that, llama shirts are suddenly trending, then hey, maybe you should make a llama shirt for your shop.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, and you can go ahead and head on over to eRank. They offer several levels of service. You can join up for free, take advantage of it, take it for a spin, see how it fits, and then work your way up the ladder to a pro account. And speaking of pro accounts, I promised you a chance to get a free pro account at the beginning of today's webinar by answering our trivia question correctly. Okay, and not only will you receive a free eRank Pro account, you'll also get a custom Printify mug and $50 of Printify sales credit put directly into your Printify account. And if you're watching and you don't have a Printify account, well, no problem. You can sign up for free, and if you are one of the lucky winners, we would be happy to put that $50 right into your account to get you started. Okay, all right. So, trivia question, Starla, please. What is today's trivia question?
Oh, I hope you guys were paying attention. So, how many ranking factors does Etsy say that sellers can influence? And if anybody gets this wrong, I'm going to be super upset, because we said it a lot.
Yes, you mentioned it several times, so you have no excuse not to know what it is. So go ahead and click on the link that we are putting into the chat right now. That'll bring you to our quick little survey with only just a few questions. It'll take you just a few minutes to fill out. There you can put in the correct answer to the trivia question and possibly be one of our 3 random winners for that awesome prize package. Okay, wow, there was so much cool information in today's presentation. Starla, thank you so much. But in a way, I feel like we only scratched the surface. So I don't know, maybe we can convince you to come back at some point in the future. What do you say?
Oh, yeah, that would be great. I have a great presentation on branding if you guys are interested in the psychology of building brands. I think a lot of my audience, they really love that presentation. So maybe we can dust that one off.
Wonderful. Well, you can keep the journey going both on our Printify's own YouTube channel, as well as all of Starla's content that's out there in the ether of the internet. And that you can find that on the handmadealphaacademy.com. And also you've got a ton of YouTube videos out there and stuff like that. So she's not hiding. It's out there for you to take advantage of. Okay. So join us throughout the holiday season as we will be giving you live updates, guests, chances to win prizes, all kinds of cool stuff, as well as more information on how to take advantage of the new Walmart integration that you can only find here exclusively on Printify to maximize your POD profitability potential. Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you, Starla, and everybody. Be sure to revisit this at our YouTube channel and watch it over and over again and take advantage of all the awesome tips that Starla presented us today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.